Okay, so you're very welcome, and thank you for joining me on this Thursday morning. I'm hoping you're here because you're an owner, you're an MD, you're a CEO of a business, and you're looking for some tips on how to create a marketing plan that's unique to you, that's useful, practical, and that lays the foundations of all your strategic marketing planning for the future. So I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour. I know some of you come to me through LinkedIn, some through the network. Others may have come to one of the advisory workshops that I run and want a little bit more information on that. You may have already seen and downloaded the PDF that I have, which has even more details in there on this. You will get a copy of that at the end of this webcast as well. So this is to give you some background to get you moving. So just a little bit of background about me and where my experience comes from and what Priddey Marketing does. So Priddey Marketing is an agency that works with owners, MDs and CEOs to help them get their marketing strategy right, and then works with their marketeers to help implement the unique strategy that we come across. And we do this through three different ways. One is working on a one-to-one basis with the business. Another is in working as a sounding board, either working with the marketeers directly, or it could be as an interim marketing director with the senior team, or a combination of both. And another way is sometimes people just say, we would like a plan, that's all we need, and we'll take it from here. And my own experience, 30 plus years in sales and marketing, working with companies of all sizes. I've worked in-house, in agency, in startups, with some of the largest organisations in the world and with some of the smallest organisations around. So I've got a breadth of experience. I tend to specialise working more with STEM-based organisations now, which is science, technology, engineering and manufacturing companies, but we'll work across all sorts. I'm an advisor for Oxley and Thames Valley, Berkshire, and there's a smattering of some of the companies that I have worked with over the years and I'm currently working with now. So that's a little bit about my background, and the interesting thing is no matter who I've worked with, I come across similar mistakes when it comes to marketing, thinking about marketing and thinking about marketing planning. And these are the sort of things that I come across on a regular basis. Things like, usually it's not so much that we don't know what to do, it's just we've got so many things, so many ideas, so many things we could be doing. We're not sure which one to focus on first. We don't know how to prioritize. We don't really know which ones are working. So you get this sort of planning paralysis where either nothing happens because we're not sure what to do, or so much is happening that nothing really is happening with any thought behind it. It's just activity, which is tactics, no strategy. And of course that leads to inconsistency across messaging, across channels, and not being clear in when the referrals you're getting, because we all know our best marketing is word of mouth and referral, not feeling like we're getting the right sort of leads coming our way and being referred to us. Another common mistake is not measuring the right things or not measuring at all. A lot of you will be familiar with this. We've got everybody will benefit from our everyone will benefit from our innovation. So oh gosh, you know, how do we market to the world? Another one is following the herd, doing what everyone else is doing. They must know what they're doing because they're out there, so let's do what they do. And also when it comes to budgeting, not being quite sure what to budget for what area. Working with scientists and engineers, you know, technical experts, a lot are aiming for some kind of perfection in the planning, can agonize over that plan. And again, what I'm aiming for and what I'm going to show you here is a way to get sort of 80, 85%, 90% at the most towards that plan, because it should be a working document that you keep referring to and that is useful to you. And the final thing, confusing, what's the difference between marketing and sales? So that's the first thing that we'll tackle. Before you start your plan, you've got to be clear about what it is you want the plan to be talking about and to be addressing. And most of you, a lot of you who've already encountered me before will know that I have this very simple definition of what is marketing, what is sales. You can look at the Chartered Institute of Marketing definition of marketing. You can go online and look at definitions of sales. I find it really easy just to separate them in these two ways and think of marketing as the function is to attract people towards you, and the function of sales is to encourage people to take action, and the two are totally linked together. Obviously, good marketing is about attracting the right people towards you, and good sales is about helping the right people to take action. Both of these have different skill sets. They complement each other. You can't do one without the other. You can use the skills for good. You can use them for evil. It's up to you. I choose to work with ethical, purposeful businesses and incorporate that sort of marketing in our planning. So that gives you a background and will help you to qualify, what am I actually doing in terms of my marketing plan? It's all about attracting people towards you. So how do you go about creating a plan that works for you and your unique business and organization? So these 6 steps I'm going to take you through. A lot of it will be, well, we already know that, it's obvious. It is, but it's not happening in most businesses. I'm going to try and take a lot of the jargon out and just make it very simple. And what you'll find is that if you understand the process and you're following the process, it will help you for all your future planning when you hit your next milestone. And another thing about planning is I joke with people that strategy has never been so short term. The world is changing so fast. The environment that we're working in is changing so fast. People's attitudes are changing. So absolutely have your vision and your goal, which will be many years out. But in terms of your planning, it does need to be a working document, because you need to be agile to react to what's going on in the marketplace, to take advantage of opportunities, and to be able to quickly say, no, that's not right for us now. Step 1, benchmark. When we are starting our planning, and I have a questionnaire I go through with people, and I say, right, what is it you're trying to achieve? Where is it you're trying to get to? Where are you now? The immediate response is usually around, well, this is how much money we want to make. This is how much money we want to gain if you're going for investment. This is how profitable we want to be. So we all start off talking in terms of money. But the problem with that is that while it's a very good starting point, it's not very motivating. And what tends to happen in a lot of businesses, all businesses, is you start putting in targets which are always things like, we want to be 10% more profitable next year, or we want to be, increase our profit margin, or we want to turn over X amount more. And you just keep putting the figure up year after year. And that's not motivating for you. It's not motivating for others. It might be for the shareholders, but everyone else in the business doesn't. It feels like more pressure. So think about other goals that are also going to be motivating and that will make a difference when you'll be able to see when they've been met. So things like if you were in a business where you had software, it might be that you want to be able to move onto the next level, be able to make a new release of software in a given time. So that's linking in your business objectives with your marketing objectives, and you're thinking about what's going on there. And when that happens, when that launch event happens, that's going to be a mark of success. It could be that you want to employ a salesperson in 18 months. It could be you want to move offices or move into offices or into lab space within a certain period of time. Those are big goals. There will be smaller ones along the way as well. You might just want to be able to see the figures really easily. And one of my bits of advice I give here is go with your gut and don't agonize over a lot of this. This can be your own internal document initially, as you as owner of the business. What's going to make a difference to you? What is it you're trying to achieve? And document that. Those of you who know me well will know that the thing that I really focus on all the time is target market. And that is step 2, and it's absolutely critical in your planning. Your ideal client, and it's a person, it's not a building. What do they look like? How well do you know them? And model your marketing around that individual. Now, if you've got several individuals that you think are your target market, which one is the one that you'd like to focus on first, and why? Because you can't do all of them at the same time. You start with one, you get that right, then you adapt your model to go to the second profile. Usually, unless you are the biggest organization in the world, 2 or 3 profiles is probably enough. And I don't mind whether you call them profiles, avatars, personas, ideal client. It's all the same thing. Getting clear on who that person is. And think about, I know in terms of marketing fluff, people go, oh gosh, why do I need to know what they had for breakfast and what they're doing with the family life? It's true, a lot of that is irrelevant, but some of it isn't, because the more you understand your ideal client, the more you understand how they spend their day, then the more you can start targeting your marketing to those activities they're doing through the day. And do you remember when I said before about that mistake we often fall into, going in and doing marketing with everybody else? The more you can work out how that person spends their day and interrupt that day with the right message at the right time and be in a different place to where everybody else is, the more effective your marketing will be. So I would work on this, and I would make sure that you're documenting your ideal client. And the way you're getting there is when you're able to give this person a name. And some of my clients, they'll look at their existing client list and they'll say, oh, I really like working with that person. And they'll model the profile around that person, and they'll give it that person's name. It's fine, it's internal, nobody needs to know. Other people will come up with cartoon characters that kind of explain what this person feels like. So there's different ways of doing it. But the important thing is to start writing it down, and then you can come back and interrogate it. And I'll explain as we go through the process. A crucial part of this is you're doing this on your own at the moment. Ideally, I would say this, but if you've got somebody independent, third party helping you and challenging you, it really helps you to get there quicker. But what you're going to do with this at the end is you're going to present it to your customer facing team and get their feedback and get their challenge, because they're closer to the customer in a lot of cases, and they may well have some insight that you've missed. I'm going to call our ideal client Bob. And now that I've identified Bob is my ideal client, I'm going to work out, right, okay, what does Bob want to hear? Big mistake when we're doing our marketing is we jump in and tell people what we do and how we do it. Of course, Bob doesn't really, he wants an idea of what you do, but he doesn't really mind or care how you do it. What he's thinking is, what's in it for me? So your messaging should be directed to Bob. And the more honed you are at that, the more effective your messaging will be. And people who aspire to be like Bob, or who are 80% Bob, will also pick up on nuances of your message and be attracted to it. So working on your message, start with the 30 seconds explaining to Bob what's in it for them. That can then be honed and tuned across all your different marketing channels with the certain keywords that you've worked out Bob wants to hear. And just like in, when you're starting a business and you're not quite sure and you're researching, come up with something and test it. Keep testing, keep questioning, keep asking, because that's the way that you'll finesse your message and make it something that Bob will really hear. Write it down. And this is the format that I tend to use with people, which puts the messaging on its head. It's not about me, it's about who I work with, but it's quickly about you, Bob, and what you're looking for. Now, step 4 is triggers, and here's Bob. Bob is a horse in this instance. Bear with me. Imagine Bob is a horse. You've all heard the adage that you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So if you imagine Bob is your ideal client is a horse, you can lead him toward the water. You think you bring him along in terms of his, what we would call the marketing channels, or the routes. But unless he is thirsty, in pain, or unless Bob looks at the water, the horse looks at the water and goes, oh, that looks so cold and inviting and delicious, Bob is not going to drink the water. So it's really important when you're doing your planning to think not just what marketing routes do we think Bob is going to take towards us, but what's going to make him act. Because if he's not ready to act, there's no point in trying to make him act. Just move on. You will keep nurturing and keep in communication with Bob until he is ready to act, to drink the water. But identifying that there's only certain trigger points that's going to make Bob drink will help you with your marketing, because then again, in terms of your messaging, in terms of your content that you put out, you can be talking about those triggers. Typically people come toward me because, in my case, a lot of the time it's financial year end. So here we are halfway through the year. And again, that's another trigger point where we think, what, have I really stuck to my plan? Where am I in terms of progress? What's going on in my marketing? Am I hitting targets? Am I achieving? I've only got half a year left to do the next piece, so I just need to check in on that. So that goes hand in hand with routes. And again, routes, some people call them channels, media, whatever. This is where your marketing tactics are really coming to the fore. Now, if you've done your work right with Bob, your ideal client, these sort of things will reveal themselves. And I'll give you an example. I was working with a client who has just set up a new business and had an existing business that was doing really well, attracting people on Facebook. And she came to me and she says, do you know, I don't know why people aren't engaging with me on Facebook, because it's worked for me. I don't know what's going on. So we did this exercise where we went back and we examined her ideal client, and she said, oh, there's 2 people that I am actually working with I really like, and I think they could be, I'd like more of those. So we had a conversation about them, and one of them, she said, yeah, she did find me online, but it was an online directory. In fact, it was a local online directory, not Facebook. Okay. And the second person, as we were talking, she says, do you know what? She made a comment that she doesn't do Facebook. So immediately, just modeling on what she knows about her ideal client, we now know that her second business, in terms of social media, and that was just one aspect we were looking at, Facebook is probably the wrong medium, the wrong route. So the more you understand and the more you question and the more you get, if you only got 1 or 2 clients, you can only model it on those and what you think. If you haven't got any clients at all, it's all guesswork. So you have to test out and ask people, how would they find you if they needed your services? If you've got lots of clients, the old 80-20% rule will have worked, and there'll be 20% of clients you really like working with. So go in and examine those a bit more and work out how they came to you in the first instance. If you're not sure, and it's been for quite a while they've been a client and they can't remember how they came to you, then another neat trick is to just say, well, okay, if you were to look for me now, how would you go about it? And then just keep asking questions. Again, you'll know it's asking people who are already interacting with you, communicating with you, that is your most effective platform on which to build your plan. And document all of this so that when it comes to writing it in your plan, you can use these headings. It doesn't matter what headings you give it, as long as it makes sense to you and it's helping you to move forward. And the plan I would recommend is 2 or 3 pages long, not very long. If you've done lots of research, so say, for example, you've done a load of competitor research or market research to come to your conclusions, or you spent a long time on your ideal client, you've got a lot of documentation. I just put those in the appendix and try and summarize what you've learned in a couple of lines or a paragraph. You'll find that's a much more useful plan to work towards when you've got things summarized. And I do this all the time. What you'll then find is when you're losing your way or you're not quite sure, you pull up the plan again and look at the messaging, or look at the ideal client, or look at the channel that you've said, this is the one we need to focus on. Okay, yeah, reminded, I can now move forward. And then in terms of how you move forward, because I promised you this would be a plan that you can action. And over the years, I've used all sorts of clever tools, Gantt charts, goodness knows what else, Trello. There's all sorts of things out there. And I keep falling back on an Excel spreadsheet because it's simple. And as an owner of a business, those tools are great for the people doing the work, but they're not so great for you as the owner of the business who wants to just see at a glance what is going on. So if you've got your roots and your roots correct, you've worked your way through the plan, you've isolated 1 or 2 key strategies that you're going to use that will target Bob. And now what you can do is just create a simple snapshot dashboard that headlines what is going to happen over the next 90 days. And you can start to assign. I often have a header sheet, and then I have a sheet underneath which has ideas, maybe a content schedule, or maybe who's doing what, the working pieces underneath. But one headline piece that we can just check in on a regular basis and go, are we on track? What's changed? Is this happening? What do we need to do to move it forward? So that was and I've done it in 25 minutes, whistle-stop tour of the 6-step marketing plan.